Monique Chambers grew up in the heart of St. Catherine Parish, Jamaica. A confident, educated woman with a big laugh and an even bigger heart. She had dreams of owning a beauty spa and becoming a motivational speaker for young women. At 29, she was already a licensed esthetician and ran her own mobile beauty service, Glow with Monique. Her business took her into the villas and resorts of Montego Bay's elite, where she offered facials and massage therapy to vacationers and locals alike. Monique wasn't looking for love. Her focus had always been independence, financial, emotional, spiritual. But love, as they say, often shows up when you least expect it. And love, it seemed, came in the form of Dwayne Barrett. Dwayne, 33, was a polished and charming Montego Bay real estate broker. He was the type of man who made heads turn when he walked into a room. Tall, light-skinned, always impeccably dressed, and disarmingly smooth. He was known for flipping high-end villas along Jamaica's north coast and networking with foreign investors. Many women in the area whispered about him, some with admiration, others with warning. He met Monique at a beach party in Ocho Rios, hosted by a mutual friend in late 2022. Monique had been hired to provide massage services at the event. Dwayne noticed her across the sand, barefoot, focused, confident. He approached her with his signature smile and a rum punch in hand. "You work magic with those hands," he said. "I only work on clients," she replied, smirking. "So let me become one," he said. "Of your heart." It was corny, but it worked. That night, they walked along the shoreline under the stars, laughing about their childhoods, their dreams, and their shared love for 90s reggae. Dwayne spoke of building a real estate empire that could be passed down to his children. Monique shared her vision of creating a self-care sanctuary for overworked women. They clicked, not just physically but emotionally, spiritually. Over the following weeks, they became inseparable. Dwayne sent flowers to her house, took her on surprise trips to Kingston, and introduced her to his friends and colleagues. He spoke highly of her on social media, captioning their photos with phrases like, "My queen crown," and "God sent her to me." To the outside world, their relationship was goals. By March 2023, just 4 months after they met, Dwayne took Monique on a romantic weekend getaway to Treasure Beach. On a moonlit cliff, with reggae playing softly in the distance, he got down on one knee and pulled out a diamond ring. "You make me a better man," he said. "Let's build this life together." Monique said yes, tears streaming down her cheeks. She'd never been proposed to before, and certainly not like this. It felt like fate, like her prayers had finally been answered. The couple's wedding was scheduled for July, fast-tracked, extravagant, and completely over the top. It was held at the luxurious Trial Club in Hanover, with nearly 200 guests in attendance. The bride wore a hand-beaded mermaid gown. The groom arrived in a white tuxedo on horseback. They danced their first dance to Terrace Riley's She's Royal. Photos from the event went viral across local wedding pages, even drawing the attention of lifestyle influencers. The wedding was called the Caribbean Fairy Tale by one online blogger. But few knew that just beneath the golden surface, secrets were already beginning to fester. Monique had entered the marriage full of hope and love. What she didn't know was that Dwayne had entered it carrying a dangerous secret, and that secret would destroy everything. From the outside, it looked like a dream continuing to unfold. Just days after their extravagant wedding at the Trial Club, Monique and Dwayne Barrett jetted off to the luxurious Rockhouse Hotel in Negril, an award-winning cliffside resort nestled on the western tip of Jamaica. It was a honeymoon destination straight out of a romance movie. Turquoise waters, private villas overlooking the ocean, candlelit dinners, spa treatments, and a suite carved into the volcanic cliff itself. Everything screamed exclusivity, privacy, and intimacy. Dwayne had spared no expense. The honeymoon package included couples massages, private chefs, and sunset cruises. He made a show of it too, posting stories on Instagram with captions like, "Just married my queen," "Honeymoon mode," "Activated ring desert island," hashtag Mr. and Mrs. Barrett. Monique, still wrapped in the warmth of her wedding glow, posted selfies with Dwayne kissing her cheek, videos of them sipping champagne by the infinity pool, and slow-motion clips of her twirling in her silk robe. But what the camera didn't capture told a far different story. It started with small things most people would overlook. Dwayne's phone, once always within Monique's reach, was suddenly glued to him. He kept it on silent. He began facing the screen away from her, even while sleeping. On the second night, during a romantic private dinner, his phone buzzed continuously. He glanced at it and paled slightly. Then, he excused himself from the table, muttering something about a work emergency. Monique watched him walk away, phone in one hand, voice lowered, pacing along the resort's wooden walkway in the moonlight. He was gone for 25 minutes. When he returned, she asked him directly, "Who keeps calling you at 9:30 at night?" "It's our honeymoon." Dwayne chuckled and kissed her forehead. "Baby, you know how it is. Real estate don't sleep. This Japanese investor's on a different time zone." She laughed it off at first. Maybe she was being paranoid. He was ambitious. That's one of the things she loved about him. But over the next 2 days, the odd behavior escalated. He would step out of their villa early in the mornings, claiming he was taking calls in peace. He would return from these walks sweaty, distracted, sometimes angry. Monique noticed he was checking his phone after almost every interaction, even when they were at the beach or lounging in the hot tub. And then came the slip-up. On the 5th day of their honeymoon, Monique borrowed Dwayne's iPad to order room service. The iPad, which he used for work, was connected to his iCloud, and within seconds, a string of messages popped up in the corner of the screen. "Tanisha Miles, you said you would call me today. Stop ignoring me. You just married her, but you said it changes nothing." Another message followed. "Tanisha Miles, the baby needs diapers. I had to borrow money again. You're acting brand new now that you said, 'I do.'" Monique's heart stopped. The iPad trembled in her hands. Who was Tanisha? What baby? What promise? She stared at the messages, frozen. More came through. "Tanisha Miles, you said you'd take care of us. Don't forget where your heart really is." Monique put down the iPad slowly, her fingers shaking. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just sat there, in that picture-perfect villa overlooking the Caribbean Sea, with a champagne glass in one hand and betrayal stabbing her from the other. Her instincts, the ones she had dismissed as just honeymoon nerves, were screaming now. The puzzle pieces started to fit together. The late-night calls, the constant need for privacy, the abrupt tone changes, the subtle but sharp emotional distance. She didn't say anything to Dwayne that night. Instead, she smiled when he returned from another call and pretended to be tired. She laid in bed beside him, her back turned, eyes wide open. In that moment, Monique's perfect love story shattered silently. She had trusted this man with her future, her heart, her body, only to discover that he had lied to her at the most sacred moment in their lives. As Dwayne snored peacefully next to her, Monique's thoughts spiraled. She had left everything behind to marry him, her apartment, her freedom, her independence. And now, not only was he cheating, he had a child with another woman? Her breath came fast and sharp. This wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. On a national stage. She closed her eyes and tried to silence her thoughts, but they kept returning like crashing waves. Who was Tanisha? How long had it been going on? And more importantly, what was she going to do about it? Monique woke up early the next morning, long before the sun kissed the horizon. Dwayne was still asleep, sprawled across the king-size bed with a faint smile tugging at his lips, like a man without a care in the world. But for Monique, sleep had not come easy. Her heart was a battlefield of emotions. Confusion, anger, disbelief, and something far more dangerous, resolve. She slipped out of bed quietly, wrapped herself in a robe, and stepped onto the cliffside veranda. The ocean breeze was soft, almost soothing, but inside her, a storm was beginning to rise. Monique stood at the edge, staring out over the crashing waves, trying to understand the magnitude of what she'd seen. The messages on Dwayne's iPad hadn't stopped after that night. She'd gone back and read more, Screens and screens of chats between him and Tanisha Miles, a woman she had never heard of before. There were photos, love notes, talk of shared dreams, and worst of all, voice messages from a baby. His baby, babbling dada in the background. He had a whole other life, and Monique had walked blindly into it, thinking she was the only one. As the sun began to rise, bathing the villa in golden light, Monique made a decision. She wouldn't confront Dwayne just yet. She needed to know the full truth. She needed confirmation, not just hunches. She needed to find this woman. She returned to the room and quietly took the iPad again. Dwayne's iCloud was still logged in. With careful fingers, she scrolled through his emails, calendar appointments, and saved documents. She found a money transfer receipt to a T. Miles sent 2 weeks before their wedding. Then another dated just 4 days ago, while they were already on their honeymoon. Monique screenshot everything. Evidence, receipts, even saved voice memos. And then, almost by fate, she found Tanisha's number in his contacts. She didn't call it right away. Instead, she opened WhatsApp on her own phone and saved the number under T. The profile photo was of a young woman with long braids, maybe mid-20s, holding a chubby baby girl on her hip. The status read, "Don't play me for a fool. Karma's watching." The irony was almost poetic. She clicked the chat and typed, "Hi, you don't know me, but I think we need to talk. It's about Dwayne Barrett." The message was seen within seconds. The typing bubble appeared. Then came the reply, "So it's true. He did marry you." Monique's breath caught. Tanisha wasn't confused. She knew who Monique was. She had known about the wedding. The messages hadn't just been desperate pleas. They were calculated bombs, meant to test if Dwayne would keep his promises now that he had said, "I do," to someone else. Monique messaged again. "How long have you two been involved?" Tanisha replied instantly, 2 years. My daughter is 8 months old. He told me he loved me the day before your wedding." Monique's hands went numb. 2 years. That meant he was with Tanisha when he first met Monique. That meant every romantic gesture, every proposal plan, every wedding vow was built on a lie. The pain turned to rage, sharp and blistering. "I'm sorry," Tanisha added. "I didn't know he was serious about marrying anyone else until I saw your wedding photos. He blocked me after that. But now you know who he really is." Monique didn't reply after that. She didn't need to. That afternoon, she pretended everything was fine. She kissed Dwayne's cheek. She smiled during lunch. She held his hand as they walked down to the cliffside cabana. But underneath it all, her mind was ticking like a metronome. She watched him closely now, the way he shifted his gaze when certain notifications lit up his screen, the way he rushed through conversations about their future, how his answers didn't always line up. Dwayne, oblivious, continued playing the role of doting husband. He had no idea Monique was unraveling his lies from the inside out, and that very soon everything was going to explode. As they sat beneath the swaying palm trees that evening, sipping cocktails and listening to soft reggae playing in the background, Monique leaned in and whispered gently into Dwayne's ear, "Tell me, baby, is there anything I should know before we leave this place?" He laughed, his arm lazily draped across her shoulder. "Nah, love, just that I've never been happier." Monique smiled and kissed his cheek, her lips lingering just a second longer than usual. But her smile didn't reach her eyes, because in that moment, with the whispering winds swirling around them and the setting sun casting long shadows across the deck, Monique made up her mind. If Dwayne wouldn't come clean, she would force the truth out one way or another. The next morning was unusually still. The gentle rustling of the sea breeze through the palms was gone, as if the island itself was holding its breath. The water that had once sparkled like liquid crystal was now a sheet of gray-blue glass. Inside Villa 12, Monique stood at the edge of the balcony with her back to the bed, where Dwayne was still snoring. She had barely slept. Her mind had been consumed with spiraling thoughts. Memories of their courtship, the wedding, the vows he had whispered in her ear just a week ago. All of it tainted. Her chest burned with betrayal. But underneath the pain, something darker brewed. something unrecognizable, even to her. A woman pushed too far, cornered, humiliated. The smile she wore was a mask. Underneath it was fury, sharp as a blade. Dwayne finally stirred, grunting as he rubbed the sleep from his eyes. Damn, I feel like I slept for 12 hours, he mumbled, stretching. Monique didn't turn around. You did. He yawned and walked toward her, wrapping his arms around her waist. She stiffened, just slightly. He didn't notice. Want to go down to the beach today? He asked. Maybe grab some jet skis? She nodded. Yeah, that sounds perfect. 2 hours later, the couple strolled hand in hand toward the private cove just below the resort, past the spa and massage rooms, down a winding stone path that led to the secluded beach. The water lapped at the shore gently. A few other honeymooners were sunbathing in the distance, but otherwise the place was deserted. Monique wore a crimson bikini beneath a sheer black cover-up. Her sunglasses masked her expression, but her jaw was clenched tight. She had a plan now. She had called Tanisha again that morning. Their brief conversation confirmed everything she feared. Dwayne had not only lied, he had promised to take care of Tanisha and their child, even after marrying Monique. He's a snake, Tanisha said. You should have seen it sooner. Now Monique saw everything clearly. After all she gave up for him, her business, her independence, her pride, this man had made her look like a fool. As they set up a beach towel and umbrella, Monique pulled a small cooler from her tote bag. I packed us drinks, she said sweetly. Thought we could have our own little beach picnic. Dwayne grinned. You're spoiling me. She handed him a bottle of Red Stripe beer and twisted off the cap of her pineapple rum. They toasted in silence. She watched him sip from his bottle, completely unaware of what was coming. An hour passed. Then two. They swam. They laughed. They kissed in the surf. And then, when they were both dry and lounging under the umbrella, Monique turned to him and said in the calmest voice imaginable, Who is Tanisha? Dwayne's head jerked slightly. The color drained from his face. What? Tanisha. And the baby. You said you'd take care of them. Even after we got married. Dwayne blinked fast, his lips parting without words. He looked caught between fight and flight. You've been spying on me? I saw your messages. Your voice notes. Your bank transfers. I know everything. Dwayne sat up, defensive now. Look, baby, it's not what you think. Don't lie to me again, she snapped, her voice rising. You made vows to me, and all this time you were lying, living a double life. Dwayne stood up, pacing. It was a mistake, okay? I didn't mean for it to go on this long. I didn't know she'd keep the baby. Monique stood too, her fists clenched at her sides. Her voice was ice. So that makes it better? You cheated on me, lied to my face, trapped me in a marriage I thought was real. They were yelling now. A few distant beachgoers turned their heads. You think you're so perfect? Dwayne barked. You think I didn't sacrifice for you too? You think you didn't come with your own baggage? I was loyal, she screamed. I was faithful. I left everything for you. Something inside Monique snapped. A month ago she would have walked away. But here, in this moment, on this beach where they were supposed to celebrate love, all she felt was rage. Pure, primal, consuming. And then it happened. With no warning, Monique grabbed the glass bottle of rum from the cooler and swung it with all her strength into the side of Dwayne's head. The crack was sickening. Dwayne stumbled back, dazed, blood beginning to pour from his scalp. He fell onto the sand, clutching his head. Are you crazy? He shouted. Monique didn't answer. She raised the bottle again and brought it down. Again and again, each blow fueled by months of deception, humiliation, and shattered trust. Screams rang out from the beach. Someone began running toward them, but it was too late. By the time security arrived, Dwayne Barrett lay lifeless in a pool of blood and sand. His skull cracked open, his eyes frozen in a final expression of disbelief. And Monique? She just stood there, the broken neck of the bottle still in her hand, her face expressionless, as if something inside her had finally gone silent. Screams echoed from the beach. Staff members sprinted down the narrow stone paths. Other guests stood frozen in horror, clutching towels to their chests and shielding their children's eyes. What was meant to be a honeymoon paradise had transformed into a crime scene. Monique stood in the center of it all, her crimson bikini soaked with blood, her right hand still clenched around the jagged neck of a broken rum bottle. Her breath came in sharp, shallow gasps, but her expression was distant, eerily calm. Dwayne's body lay in the sand just a few feet away, his blood mingling with the incoming tide. A young Jamaican lifeguard was the first to reach the scene. His face contorted with shock as he dropped to his knees and checked Dwayne's pulse. "Call the police," he shouted to the others. "Now!" Monique didn't move. She didn't run. She didn't cry. She simply stood there, almost statuesque, like the gravity of what had just happened hadn't yet reached her. Or maybe it had, and she no longer cared. Within minutes, a resort manager arrived, speaking rapidly into a radio, demanding paramedics, police, and privacy for the resort's other guests. A security guard approached Monique slowly, cautiously, as though she were a wild animal. "Miss, I need you to drop the bottle. Please." Her eyes flickered toward the man. She looked at the bottle in her hand like she had forgotten it was there. Then, without a word, she released it. It hit the sand with a soft thud. Police sirens wailed in the distance. When the Jamaican constabulary force arrived, they quickly secured the area. Yellow tape cordoned off the beach. Forensics officers began photographing the scene. Officers questioned resort staff and horrified tourists, one of whom had captured part of the assault on their smartphone. Two detectives approached Monique. One was an older man with graying temples and weary eyes. The other, a sharp-eyed woman who immediately took the lead. "Monique Barrett?" she asked, voice firm but calm. "Yes. I'm Detective Sergeant Carleen Ricketts with the Negril Police Department. You're being placed under arrest for the suspected murder of your husband, Dwayne Barrett." There was no struggle. Monique allowed them to handcuff her without resistance. Her head remained high as they led her off the beach, past stunned onlookers and into the back of a waiting police SUV. The doors closed behind her with a solid metallic thump. It was over, or so it seemed. At the Negril police station, Monique was placed in a small, windowless room with nothing but a table, 2 chairs, and a humming overhead fan. Her blood-stained swimsuit had been replaced with an oversized gray shirt and drawstring pants. Her hair was pulled back tightly, her face still unreadable. Detective Ricketts entered first, followed by a male officer holding a recorder. "This interview is being recorded," the officer announced. Date: July 14th, 2023. Subject: Monique Althea Barrett. Charge: murder. Ricketts sat across from Monique and leaned in slightly. "I want to give you a chance to tell your side. You can remain silent, or you can explain what happened on that beach." Monique stared at her for a long moment before speaking. "He lied to me," she said simply. "About what?" "Everything." And then, over the next 45 minutes, Monique detailed the events leading up to Dwayne's death, how she discovered the affair, the secret child, the betrayal. She spoke of the messages from Tanisha, the voice memos, the money transfers. She painted a picture of a woman who had been emotionally ambushed, manipulated, and discarded like a fool. But she never once denied killing him. "Did you plan to kill your husband before that day?" Ricketts asked. "No," Monique replied. "I planned to confront him. That's all." "So the attack? Was it spontaneous?" A long pause. "No. It was a choice. In that moment, I chose to stop him from ever lying to me, or anyone else, again." There it was. A confession. Cold. Final. Detective Ricketts ended the recording and stepped outside. By the next morning, the story had gone viral, first across Jamaican tabloids, then international news. Headlines read, "Honeymoon Horror. New bride kills husband in bloody beach attack. Paradise turns deadly. Woman beats spouse to death after uncovering affair. From vows to violence. American tourist jailed for murder in Jamaica." Photos of Monique in handcuffs, still in her beachwear, splashed across social media. The video footage, shaky and distant, captured the final blows. Public opinion was sharply divided. Some called her a monster. Others, a woman pushed beyond her limits. Meanwhile, back in the United States, friends and family of the couple were blindsided. Monique's sister, Kayla, told reporters, "I spoke to her the day before she left. She said she was the happiest she'd ever been. This doesn't sound like her." Tanisha Miles refused to speak to reporters. But her silence said enough. In the days following her arrest, Monique was transferred to a women's detention center near Montego Bay. She was held without bail, pending a formal charge of first-degree murder. Her defense attorney, a sharp-tongued Kingston woman named Nadine Wallace, issued a brief statement. "My client suffered emotional trauma from a profound betrayal. We intend to present all relevant evidence at trial. This was not premeditated murder. It was the consequence of psychological torment." But the prosecution saw it differently. They pointed to the screenshots, the WhatsApp messages, the recorded voice note where Monique said, "If he won't come clean, I'll force the truth out, one way or another." It sounded like a threat. It sounded like intent. And if found guilty, Monique Barrett could face life imprisonment in Jamaica. The courtroom in Montego Bay was packed. Monique stood in the defendant's box, wearing a beige suit and handcuffs. Her face was calm, but her eyes betrayed exhaustion. The prosecutor argued that she acted with rage and premeditation, not self-defense. They showed photos of Dwayne's injuries, the blood-soaked sand, and played the chilling voice message where she hinted, "If he won't tell me the truth, I'll make him." Her lawyer claimed emotional abuse, betrayal, and mental breakdown. "This was a woman shattered by lies," she said. The jury listened carefully. Tanisha Miles was brought in to testify. She wore sunglasses and kept her answers brief. "Yes, I had a relationship with Dwayne," she said. "Yes, I have his child. He promised to leave Monique, but never did." She admitted she sent the messages to Monique. The courtroom fell silent as Monique stared at her. No tears, just pain. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned. Guilty of manslaughter, not murder. The court accepted that Monique acted in the heat of passion, not with full intent. The judge sentenced her to 12 years in prison. She showed no emotion, just whispered, "Thank you," to her lawyer. Monique adjusted to life in prison. She taught English classes to other inmates, kept to herself, and wrote often in a small leather notebook. No visitors, no calls. Her sister Kayla visited once, bringing photos of their childhood. "You were always the smart one," she said. "I'm sorry it ended like this." Dwayne was buried in Kingston. Few people attended. His parents didn't speak publicly. Tanisha moved away and changed her number. The honeymoon resort tightened its security and quietly removed the beachfront cabana where it happened. Tourists still came, unaware of the blood-stained history.